So as a second tax apron team, again, like you don't have the MLE to sign guys for more than the vet minimum. You have no exceptions. All you have are veteran minimum deals. You are not going to replace what Royce O'Neale brought you with a vet minimum contract on the open market. There's just no way.
Let's go back to this free agent list here. So basically, everybody on this list is gone unless they're coming back on a vet minimum, except Royce O'Neale. So Royce O'Neale is one of the players that the Suns need to re-sign this year. Regardless of how you feel about him from a basketball perspective, the Suns need to bring Royce O'Neale back because they have his bird rights, which means they are able to give him more than the vet min. Not only is that important because it sets them up. One, it brings back an additional free agent this year, but it sets them up for some potential movement later on if they wanted to, okay? When Royce O'Neale gets signed, he'll likely have that same situation with Grayson Allen where for a certain period of time he can't be moved. But you get closer to the trade deadline, or if you overpay a little bit, Gerald, you could go more into this. You have some flexibility to use him as an asset now, which we have very few of.
Yes. Like so as a second tax apron team, again, like you don't have the MLE to sign guys for more than the vet minimum. You have no exceptions. All you have are veteran minimum deals. You are not going to replace what Royce O'Neale brought you with a vet minimum contract on the open market. There's just no way. Even if you're down on Royce because he wasn't great in the playoffs, during the regular season, he had their best on-court net rating. And when he was off the court, the Suns posted the worst net rating out of any player on the roster. So like he was good. He fit in on both ends right away. And he is a rotation level piece, which you are not, as we learned last year in veteran minimum deals, is not always guaranteed with the guys that you sign, even if you think you're getting them at a discount. So just like with Grayson, you need to re-sign him, not only because you're not going to replace what he does with vet minimums, but because you need to keep your trade flexibility. Like remember, as a second tax apron team, you cannot take additional money back that you're sending out, and you can't aggregate or combine player salaries as part of a trade anymore. So basically, you're looking at a situation where you have to trade Yusuf Nurkic's like $18.1 million for a salary that's slightly lesser than that. Grayson Allen, when he's trade eligible in mid-October, it's $15.6 million or slightly lesser than that. So if you see Royce O'Neale this summer get a contract extension that's like 3 years, $42 million, and you're like, why are they paying him so much money? Well, it's because A, Royce O'Neale has all the leverage knowing that the Suns need him back because they can't replace him otherwise. And B, that is just slightly above the $12.9 million mid-level exception for non-tax paying teams. So that gives the Suns the flexibility down the line. If there's another guy that gets signed to an MLE or somewhere in that salary range, Royce O'Neale's contract is slightly above it, which means they can trade Royce for those players. It gives you more trade flexibility. It doesn't mean you even have to trade him, but it gives you more options moving forward because right now you've only got 3 or 4 guys that are like tradable contracts unless you are trading one of the big 3, which as we've discussed is really hard to do.
Is there a cap on what they can spend on a guy that they have the bird rights on?
Not really, but you're probably not going to go much higher than like 15 mil for a guy like Royce. But yeah,
I'm just thinking more because there's always ways that these front offices get around these rules, and this seems like the way that these teams are going to get around the second apron.
Give him $40 million a year.
Yeah, like
trade him and 2 first-round picks for I don't know,
for 4 guys
for Giannis.
One year, $40 million, and then trade. But joking on that amount, but I think this feels like the loophole that teams may leverage the most when they get into the second apron is overpaying certain guys that they have on bird rights, full well knowing that they'll probably send them out eventually with other assets to try to get better.
Exactly. And so again, if Royce O'Neale gets a higher annual figure than you were expecting,
right,
don't be surprised. Don't call it Matt Ishbia having new owner syndrome and throwing money down the toilet. It's probably for a reason to keep trade flexibility in the future.
Which also, the same retweet 100%, but it also applies to Grayson Allen. Okay. Yes. Just keep that in mind too. Right. Because so many people have been in my mentions, Gerald, I'm sure yours too, who are like, You wasted all this money on Grayson Allen. You're going to regret it. If we hadn't have given that money to Grayson, that money did not exist.
Right.
That's how it wasn't like fun money that we could just throw at
No.
anybody we wanted to,
Yeah.
any player we liked. That money was specifically for Grayson Allen and Grayson Allen alone.
And you
The same way that this money would be for Royce O'Neale and Royce O'Neale alone.
and you wouldn't have gotten any salary cap room by letting
No.
either of these guys walk because you're already over the cap.
Right,
so.
which was the number we showed you at the top of the show. We're
Mhm.
already with just those 7 guys way over
Yep.
the second apron.
It's like we just kept overdrawing our checking account and didn't think anything of it. That's that's where we're at, basically.
So when somebody comes and tells you that Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neale was a bad move and the Suns are doomed, just be like, listen, it
Well,
gives
actually-
us flexibility in the future. Thank you very much. Spread the word.